Hi everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to my Australian Open 2018 vlog. This is Wasim Parkar. Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to that spot of the tournament where we can literally start penning the name of the possible champion. Yes, it's the last four. The semifinals of both the women's and men's are upon us. Now, before I start previewing the semifinals, a quick word on day 10, which in many ways was probably the most straightforward day at the Australian Open that we've had so far. All matches were won in straight sets. I'll talk about the women first. Angie Kerber versus Madison Keys. Angie Kerber won 6-1, 6-2 in 51 minutes. It was a thoroughly dominant display. She was broke only once. She broke Madison Keys' serve six times, and it seems that everything Keys threw at her, Kerber had a solution. It just never looked like Keys had a chance in this match. A fabulously dominant display, reminiscent of a few days ago when Kerber beat Maria Sharapova 6-1, 6-3. And I think that's a performance that underlines her as the slight favorite to win this tournament. The other quarterfinal that was much hype and we were all looking forward to saw Simona Halep take on Karolina Pliskova. Karolina Pliskova, to get the game going, started with fire. She was serving really well, hitting her inside out forehand so clean, and she raced to a 3-0 lead. Unfortunately for the Czech, that was as good as it got because Simona Halep just stepped up her game, started returning unbelievably, started controlling points from the baseline, and it just never looked, in a very similar vein to the first quarterfinal, never looked like Pliskova had a chance. And Halep romped to a convincing win, 6-3, 6-2. And I, for one, can't wait for a Halep versus Kerber semifinal, which I think has the potential to be a absolute classic. The men's quarterfinals, Hyun Chung beat Tennis Sandgren in straight sets 6-4, 7-6, 6-3. Sandgren gave it his all, but ultimately Chung just had a little bit more variety, greater defense, and better shot making. And of course, he can hit winners of both the forehand wing and the backhand wing. So he just had that little bit more control and he won in straight sets. There was a moment in the second set when Sandgren was serving for the set that you thought that maybe this could be a long match, but Chung broke him pretty easily and ultimately won deservedly and makes his first semifinal just at the age of 21. Then Roger Federer versus Thomas Berdych. I had talked about how Federer had won all four meetings between these two at the Australian Open before, and we had the same result again. Federer winning in straight sets. Again, Berdych started really strongly. He broke to begin the match, but once Federer broke back, it only looked like Federer was going to win. And importantly for Federer, he's playing some amazing tennis, hasn't lost a set at this tournament yet, but the backhand, he's not slicing the backhand. It's very reminiscent of 2017 when he came back from that injury layoff and he was hitting through the backhand. And when you consider the power of a player like Thomas Berdych and Federer was still hitting through the backhand, that tells you what sublime form Roger Federer is in. So, four pretty straightforward quarterfinals. Let's hope the semifinals are a little more contested. So, I'll talk about the women's semifinals first. The first one sees Caroline Wozniacki take on Elise Mertens. Elise Mertens, of course, looked fantastic in that demolition of the bookmakers' favorite Elena Svitolina in the quarterfinals. Caroline Wozniacki has alternated between looking awesome and looking vulnerable. There's still some blind spots to Wozniacki's overall play, but she's serving really well. And when Wozniacki serves well, she's an infinitely more confident player. She is more aggressive with her shots when she serves well. When she drops serve, she looks the complete opposite, too defensive. So if she can find that right balance, you'd have to say that Wozniacki is the favorite in this match, even though credit where credit is due. Elise Mertens is unbeaten in 2018, so she is a very dangerous opponent. Now, Wozniacki also likes to counterpunch a little bit, not to the extent that Kerber and Halep do, but she is comfortable counterpunching. But I find Elise Mertens a very balanced player. She's not an outright hard hitter, but she can hit very clean. And she's not an outright, soft touch player, but she volleys really well. She slices really well. So she's the opponent with nothing to lose. And I wouldn't be surprised if, at least at the start of the match or the beginning of the first set, Mertens raced out of the block in this match. But I think Wozniacki, with the experience and just a desire to finally win a first Grand Slam, will prevail in a very tight match. The second semifinal that I already alluded to, Angie Kerber versus Simona Halep. These two have played each other 8 times before and are tied 4-all. Now, in 2016, when they last played, they played each other 5 times, and Kerber won 4 out of those 5 times. And I think that's very instructive because the Angie Kerber that I'm seeing right now at the 2018 Australian Open is the 2016 Angie Kerber who reached number one in the world. Now, both of them are counter punchers, so I'm expecting lots of long rallies in this match, some incredible defensive tennis, probably some great winners on the run, as is the trademark for both these players. But I'm going to give Kerber the edge just because when both of them are such good returners, actually the serve does make a difference. And I think Kerber's serving is a really underrated aspect of her game. Her serve has improved a lot in the offseason and she's serving really well. So I think she's going to edge it over Halep, but it's too close to call. I just think the confidence of Kerber and the left-handed angle when she's going to hit more to Simona Halep's backhand, I think that will give Kerber the edge in this match, and also the experience of winning an Australian Open semi-final before. But it's going to be really exciting. You know what? This match could easily have been the final as well, but I'm expecting a real classic in this semi-final. On to the men's semi-finals. The first one sees six seed Marin Cilic take on the British upstart Kyle Edmund. I don't think anyone would have picked Edmund to reach the semi-finals, let alone beating two seeds who were heavily fancied. Kevin Anderson, the US Open semi-finalist in the first round in 5 sets, then beating Grigor Dimitrov in the quarterfinal, and convincingly so in 4 sets. You'd have to back Cilic. Now, you look at Cilic's career, we've had this middle tier of players, Gasquet, Tsonga, Raonic, Cilic, and you'd have to say that amongst all of them, Cilic has achieved the most. Of course, he won the US Open in 2014. He reached the Wimbledon final last year. He's been to the Australian Open semi-finals 3 times. So I think Cilic is the most complete player, and I think he'd be inspired to add to another checklist, another Grand Slam final, the Australian Open. He's been here at this stage before, and I think he wants it. He looked really good against Rafael Nadal in a very tough match. But you can't underestimate the British man. Kyle Edmund's forehand is really awesome. He hits it so hard. He can probably get winners of the forehand against any opponent. I just think Cilic can match that power on the forehand and backhand. So unless Cilic has a mentally poor game like Grigor Dimitrov had against Kyle Edmund in the quarterfinal, I have to see Cilic winning this one. Of course, the chance of an upset is certainly alive. It is the Australian Open, after all, the Grand Slam of upsets. But I'm going for Cilic in 4 very tough sets. And then the last semi-final, another surprise semi-finalist, Chung from South Korea, who's played some fantastic tennis, given us so many memories as tennis fans, beating Novak Djokovic, beating Alexander Zverev, is now taking on Roger Federer, the favorite for the tournament. I think this is where Chung's fairy tale ends. Not that Chung won't give Federer some problems, with his retrieving skills. Certainly, Federer is not a player who enjoys rallies getting longer and longer, so he will get some miraculous points against Federer. He's got a tricky serve, not a heavy serve, but he's very good at finding the lines on his serve. But I just think the way Federer is playing right now, serving, playing flawlessly, and he's fit. A fit Federer, even at the age of 36, just makes a huge difference, because when Federer moves freely, and as I alluded to earlier, when that backhand is being hit through, he's almost impossible to defeat, because that is the one area where an opponent can take advantage of some vulnerability. Again, it is the Grand Slam of upsets, so I wouldn't rule out Chung giving Federer real fright, but I think Federer is going to come through either in straight sets or 4 sets. But it should be a very entertaining match because it features two shot makers, one the most elegant genius who's ever played tennis, and the other a young Korean upstart who's winning lots of new fans. So I'm looking forward to 4 great semifinals. I hope we all get to enjoy them. I'll be back to preview the women's final, followed by the men's final later this week. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Wasim Parkar, signing out.